Ο γερουσιαστής Γκράχαμ δεν έχει καταλάβει ότι του έκαναν πλάκα και τις μέρες που πέρασαν συναντήθηκε με τον Τραμπ και τώρα θα τον ακούσουμε να μεταφέρει τι του είπε ο Τραμπ στον ψεύτικο Υπουργό Αμήνης της Τουρκίας.
Dallas.
Hello, we are calling from office of the minister.
Yes, 1 second. I have Senator Graham for you, sir. 1 second.
Thank you.
Senator Graham, you are connected.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Good day, Mr. Senator.
Well, thank you for taking my call. I met with the president. I spent the weekend with him, and we played golf yesterday and had dinner over the weekend, and we talked about our friends in Turkey, and I told him my desire was to change the conversation and get you back in the F-35 program and talk about a free trade agreement and move it in a new direction, and that's what he would like to do.
And did you tell him about our conversation?
Yes. So here's what I told you before. If we can find some way to deal with the S-400, that it not be activated because Congress has no room to wiggle here. A lot of my colleagues want to impose sanctions right now for accepting the system. And I told the president, we don't have to do that. We don't want to sanction Turkey. We want a better relationship with Turkey. That's exactly what he wants. And this case involving the Turkish bank, he's very sensitive to
Yes.
that. The president wants to be helpful within the limits of his power. We want to have a stronger relationship with President Erdogan. I personally like President Erdogan. I think President Trump likes President Erdogan. I think he's a strong man, and we need to deal with strong people. So I think the next thing to do is to have the two presidents talk with each other.
Yes, correct. And yes, I agree. And what did he say about our conversation? He said that so it's possible to not impose the sanctions.
Yes. So I'm giving him the space. I need you to help me here.
Okay.
The president is going to resist imposing sanctions until something new happens. I mean, if it stays like it is, the president's not going to impose sanctions, and I'll have his back. What the president would like to do is talk about how we can get you back in the F-35 program, not impose sanctions, and start a conversation about a free trade agreement.
Well, I have two news. One is good one. I had a conversation with my president 2 days ago, and I told him that we have a conversation with you, and he says that I can talk with you on behalf of President Erdogan. And the good news is that we have good relations and good improvement in our military line. You know that today your military delegation has came in Turkey, in Ankara, and I had a meeting with them about escalation in Syria.
You've been very helpful. I cannot thank you enough. I think what we're doing in Syria is going to give us a chance to calm things down. Yeah.
Yes, this is one issue. The problem is that we could have a problem from Iran and Russia. So
yes,
they can impose a sanction against us, and we need to have your support.
Well, here's what I think. As long as we have some American troops in northeastern Syria, where we provide air cover, the Russians and the Iranians are not going to come into northeastern Syria. If they come after Turkey, it only helps you in Congress. There's an effort by Iran or Russia to do something to the Turkish economy. You're preventing a massacre in Idlib. I told the president, I said, if it weren't for Turkey, holding the line at Idlib, it would be a disaster for the whole region. If it weren't for Turkey working with us in northeastern Syria, ISIS would come back. Iran would begin to dominate the region, and we'd have a real conflict between Turkey and the Kurds. So the president believes that you're very important to the future of Syria, quite frankly, very important to the U.S. economy, because he sees the Turkish economy as a real beneficial partner.
Yes. Because this issue came to us because of Syrian case. So
yes.
That's why we started to buy S-400 from Russia side.
No, I know. And part of it was our problem. I mean, the Obama administration made it very difficult for you to buy the Patriot. I understand that. Our laws are written in a fashion that I don't think the president has to issue sanctions. But if the system is activated, I don't think he has any choice. So what we're trying to do is find a way to get that issue resolved, satisfactory to both parties, not embarrassing Turkey, but change the conversation to economic integration. Of all the things that we could do with Turkey, in my view, a free trade agreement would change the relationship forever.
Yes, I agree with you. My personal view is you should know that I'm absolutely on your side.
Yeah, and the F-35 program, if we can get that back to where it was, that's $10 billion for Turkey. It's good for the relationship.
Yes. What can you provide us? So what can I tell to my president?
Well, here's what I think we should do. Let me call the president back this afternoon. Mm-hmm. I'll call you tomorrow, and here's what I think we should do. Okay. We should have a call between the two presidents.
Okay. I hope that we can arrange a good conversation between our presidents.
Yes, and I think that the conversation should be, you can tell President Erdogan that I spent the whole weekend with him, that the president does not want to sanction Turkey. He thinks that's crazy. I personally think it's crazy. We need to find a way around that, and we need to change the conversation from one of conflict to one of cooperation. And the president is very willing to try to get you back in the F-35 program. He is very willing to start a free trade negotiation conversation that I think will stabilize the lira and do more to help the Turkish government than any single thing we could do.
Yes, and may I ask, did you ask him about the case of Gulen?
Yeah, and he said he's monitoring the situation. We'll see what our FBI comes back. But he was very keen on the bank case, the one involving the Turkish bank, and he does not want that case to hurt our relationship.
Mm-hmm. So
he mentioned that twice.
So sanctions can hurt our Turkish banks.
I think so. I think we're trying to avoid that.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can avoid.
I have to tell it to my president. I have to tell him what could be in a bad case, in a bad situation.
Right. So in the best case scenario, here's the best case scenario. We find a way not to impose sanctions based on the S-400 being activated, that the Turkish bank situation gets better, not worse. You get back in the F-35 program, and we open free trade negotiations between the two countries this year, and we continue to work together to create cooperation in Syria that protects you against a YPG threat, and we've tried to find a way to go to Geneva and settle the war in Syria eventually.
And may I ask, you should understand our relations with Russia. What can we explain them? We already have a contract.
Well, I just think you need to explain to the Russians that it's the Americans that have the most leverage over the YPG threat. And, you were right about this threat. You see me on television, that we owe it to Turkey not to create a problem on your border in northeastern Syria. And you can let the Russians know that the President Trump's hands will be tied if we get into this S-400 operation. And from your point of view, I'm not asking you to have bad relationships with Russia, but I think your immediate goal, right, is to try to improve relations with the United States economically and get back in the F-35 program.
Yes, I agree. But you also should know that it's not easy to not make our relations with Russia worse because of...
Well, I know. And, let's put it this way. There's only so much... Russia is in Syria. It's a very expensive operation for Russia. Russia cannot maintain this forever. Iran has a different agenda than Russia. Russia has, their abilities to operate in Syria for a long period of time is much diminished. So I wouldn't overly worry about that. If I were you, I'd be trying to integrate the Turkish economy with the United States economy. Of all the things that could affect the Erdogan legacy, how President Erdogan changed Turkey would be to have a free trade agreement with the United States.
Yes, and I also would like to tell you some joke.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That Russian planes now are crashing. Probably you heard.
Yeah, the Russians, I mean, I don't know who they would want a free trade agreement with the Russians, but yeah, let's try to, the first thing, Mr. Defense Minister, is just to keep our relationship from deteriorating, turn it around. We don't want to get into sanctions. We don't want the bank case to get out of hand. We want to turn it around. It doesn't help Turkey for this to get worse with the United States. Stabilizing the U.S.-Turkish relationship is my number one goal.
Yes, I agree with you. So now you will call to the president.
I will call to the president, and I will make sure that he feels comfortable calling your president, and the conversation will be along the lines I just discussed. And as to Russia and Syria, I do not care if they have an air base or a Navy base. I just don't want Iran to run Damascus.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not asking the Russians to, give up all their interest in Syria. I just don't want the Iranians to be in charge of Damascus, and that's where we're headed.
Yes, that's good. So, if you...
I'll get back with you in a couple of days.
Yes. Could we arrange a phone call between my president, you, and President Trump?
That'll be the game plan. I'll get back with you in about 2 days, okay?
Okay, I'll be in touch.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Senator.
Φοβερά τα όσα ακούστηκαν και πλέον η τράπουλα είναι στα χέρια του Ερντογάν, όπου πλέον ξέρει όλες τις προθέσεις του Τραμπ και εξαρτάται από αυτόν τι απόφαση θα πάρει. Και μην ξεχνάτε, like, εγγραφή, καμπανάκι και τα λέμε στα επόμενα.